Welcome to Kelly Minds Her Manors, a podcast about real estate and entrepreneurship with a twist. Here's your host, Kelly Robinson.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Kelly Minds Her Manors. Today, I have the very engaging and intelligent and fun guest, Brad Weisman. Brad is a 31-year veteran selling residential real estate in Reading, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding areas. He's a broker owner of Keller Williams Platinum Properties, and he has so much insight into what it takes to have that kind of longevity as a real estate agent for 31 years in such a transient business. He's also got his own very successful podcast called The Brad Weisman Show, formerly known as Real Estate and You, which you should definitely check out. It's a really fun show. And he's got some really exciting stuff coming up on television. He was also on Star Search. He is formerly a big drummer and singer and songwriter. And he'll talk to us a little bit about that, as well as his philosophy on life and some other great things, which I'm not going to tell you. You're just going to have to listen. So please welcome Brad Weisman. Brad Weisman, thank you so much for being here today on Kelly Minds Her Manors and for having me on your amazing podcast not too long ago. You are a real estate guru, in my opinion. You have over 30 years experience selling residential real estate. You sell in Pennsylvania. And you're also a partner in ownership in Keller Williams Platinum Properties, correct?
Correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And last summer, July, right, was your 31st anniversary.
Yes, it was. Very good research.
Yeah. So happy belated anniversary. And I can't wait to talk to you about your experience, because I feel like a lot of the people in real estate and not in real estate listening will learn a lot from you. So you have done over 1,700 transactions, right?
Yeah. And it's hard to actually add them up after a while.
Yeah.
It's probably more than that, but you start to get to a point where back when I started in 92, the records weren't that good. Like nothing was on a computer at that point. So it's hard to go back that far. Yeah.
Yeah. So in an industry that is so transient, where only a very small percentage make it, what is your secret to longevity?
Secret to longevity, I think it's, I always tell our agents here is recreating yourself it used to be every 5 years. And now I think you have to recreate yourself every 2 to 3 years. And what that means is new pictures, maybe a new tagline, it's one of my big pet peeves actually is the picture thing. I mean, there's so many people in our industry that are using pictures that are from high school or college. and then you meet them and you're like, who the hell is this? Who's this person? I mean, you look exactly the way you look on everything that I've seen. Like every time I look at something online, you look exactly the same. But there's people that just don't do that. They don't update their stuff. And it's that, and it's also technology. Don't be afraid of technology. Don't be afraid of where the industry's going. I think a lot of people fight things because they get in a rut, or they get in a thing that says, okay, well, I've done it this way for 5 years and I've made millions of dollars. Okay, well, that's what you did the last 5 years is not going to get you through the next 5. Just not going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And there are memes all over the internet about real estate agents' photos from high school when they're like 20 years younger. I change mine every year. I'm like, I just want people to recognize me when I show up at the appointment.
And it's so true. And what's funny about that? And here's to me is it's an honesty thing. It's an integrity thing.
Yeah, I agree.
And it sounds weird, but it is, because what happens is if you're not honest with yourself about how you've grown, how you've aged, how you look, I think that's something that people pick up on. I mean, my picture every year has less hair. I mean, it's just the way it is. So if I come to you 4 years from now, you're going to be like, that is an old picture because you don't have any hair anymore. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is.
Unless you went through something very stressful in the last month. So the industry has changed a lot. And I do see a lot of people who were top brokers back when I started 18 years ago who they're afraid to change. And so they're not as relevant, and it's sad. And especially it's changed with regards to technology. I know you said it's important to evolve, as a broker, as the industry changes. How much do you embrace technology, and have you embraced AI?
Yeah, I embrace AI already on my podcast. That's where I use it a lot. When it wrote the story for you, that whole story it wrote for you, that was AI.
I love
it
that.
Actually, it listens to the podcast. It takes the things out of the podcast and writes the actual body of what's in the podcast. And then I just sit there and I kind of tweak it a little bit to make it more sound like me.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, AI, and you know what that cost me to do that per month for all my shows? $8 a month.
Oh my God. I know. I love AI. It makes life so much easier. And I agree with you. You do have to tweak things a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a time saver
tool.
for sure.
It's a tool. It's like anything else. It's like just like an app or home search app or a home search website. It's an app. It's an app. It's not going to make your life. It's going to just give you more time in your life.
Absolutely. So what was your dream job as a child? And is there anything that you did throughout childhood that makes you think, yeah, I was always meant to do this?
Well, I was going to be a rock star when I was a kid. I started playing drums at 7, and then I started singing at 14. And then I took that very serious, wrote a lot of songs, and was playing throughout our tri-state area here. And, that was kind of a career for me. And then I was on the national TV show Star Search back in 1990, and I was a male vocalist. And that's where it kind of came to an end at that point, because I did that and I was like, all right, this is just not going to be, because I think what it was is I like to entertain, but I also like gratification. I also like, I don't like delayed gratification. So at that time, it was very delayed. Whereas if I was going to make it as a musician, I could get to the time when I'm 30 or 40 and it didn't happen. And then what do I do?
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's really in entertainment, and you'll hear this a lot from musicians, is that there's really no in between. You're either rich or you're poor. And that road between the poor to the rich, everybody thinks you're an overnight success, and that's never true. There's a long road between the poor to the rich in entertainment. It's just you don't see that part.
Right. Most people don't know that Bradley Cooper was a doorman at the Morgan Hotel.
Exactly. Those are the things we don't hear. Yeah, exactly. So, so that's what I was going to be. And then my dad gave me the idea of getting into sales. He said, you sold me on everything that you ever wanted in life, whether it was a toy or a BB gun or whatever it was as a boy. He was like, you sold me on that and you're a good salesman. I'm like, I don't know. It's not seeing it, And then finally I started doing it. And what happened is the passion for the entertainment field kind of transferred to the passion I have in real estate. And I think what it is relationships. I like being around people. I like helping people, and I like the goal setting. I like having something, the one thing that was really interesting is that changed it for me was when I got into real estate, I was fortunate enough to get a sale in like the first 2 months. I got that check at 22 or 23 years old. I went, holy mackerel. I just worked a month and I made this. And I was like, wow, this could be cool. And that's when music started to take the back burner, and then I started doing real estate full time. So
yeah, that's interesting. So you did have that salesperson in you from a young age.
Yeah, somewhere.
Did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
Yes, absolutely. I'm born and raised here in Berks County. Our city is Reading. Reading is the city, which is Reading Railroad on Monopoly, which most people don't realize that.
Love that. So what is your business philosophy and why?
Oh, my business philosophy would be, I don't know if I really have a business philosophy. I have a personal moral philosophy of serving and, helping people and just relationships. I like to help people get from A to B if I can make that happen. So whether it's selling real estate, whether it's even something I don't get paid for, it's getting from A to B, or it's helping them get something that they want in their life. I get a lot out of that. That really makes me feel good.
Yeah. And you like to educate people too. I've noticed with a lot of your posts on Google and other places, like you do a lot of really good educational posts for people, and your reviews are out of this world. I mean, people love working with you. So if anybody needs a great realtor in Reading, Pennsylvania or around that area, definitely reach out to Brad. Yeah. So you have you're a partner in a brokerage, and so you've built teams, right?
Sure.
What is the most important aspect in a team member or a new agent for you?
I think it's passion. I think, I always say when somebody comes in the door, if it's a new agent, that there's like that it factor. There's that they get it. I think and also just being yourself. When somebody comes into this business or any business and they're trying to be the person that made the $1 million already, that it doesn't usually work. You need to be authentic of who you are. Because people buy you. We all know that. People buy us. They don't buy the house. They buy us. They buy us and our knowledge, and they trust that we're going to do the right things for them. But at the end of the day, they're buying us. They're buying you as a person. And so you got to be yourself, got to be authentic. And the other thing is, don't get so caught up in real estate. Yes, we have a lot of details, but I have agents that will come in that are new agents, and they are waiting to perfect the paperwork. Then when they get that paperwork perfected, that's when they're going to start selling real estate. And I tell them, look, I've been doing this 30 years. Here's the really funny thing is that the state changes our forms every 2 years, every year. So you're never going to get it perfected. You just got to stay up on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. What is your most memorable deal? Do you have one that sticks out that you can tell us about?
Yeah, I do. One where I sold the wrong house.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that.
You want to talk about stress? I'll tell you about stress. It was a new construction development, right? So it was a new construction. And what happened is we went and looked at this spec home, a model home type property. It was already built, but it wasn't finished. They had to put the carpets in. They had to paint. They had to do the kitchen, things like that. So they could pick out their own stuff yet. So I knew the other agent, listing agent. I said, look, my buyers love the spec home. They want to pick the kitchen. No problem. They can pick the kitchen. That's awesome. So I go to write up the agreement of sale, and I write it up, and everything's good, right? So about 3 weeks before settlement, my buyers get in touch with me and say, hey, we noticed they still didn't put the kitchen and the flooring in yet. I'm like, what? We got 3 weeks. It's got to be in. So I call the real estate agent, and she says, no, the kitchen and the carpets are all in. I'm like, well, that's weird, because my buyers just called me and said that it wasn't. And all of a sudden in my head, I go, oh, I'm like, and all of a sudden, I'm serious. My stomach, I almost threw up. My stomach started turning because I realized what I did. I wrote up the wrong spec home.
Oh,
yeah. So what was happening was when they were going to the other house, that was the house they bought. But the one they were putting the kitchen and the carpets in was the one we never saw. So I sold the wrong spec home. So imagine, you think I'm a good salesman. Wait to hear this. But this is just because I had great customers, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that different. So I called them. I said, guys, I have some good news and some really bad news. I said, I'm going to tell you the bad news first. The house that you're looking in, that you see, that you said is not, there's kitchen, is not there, and the carpet's not there. I said, you're right. It's not. It's definitely not. And guess what? That's actually not the house we bought. They're like, what do you mean? That is the house we bought. I'm like, no, I'm going to come and meet you there and show you the house that you bought. So I go there, meet them there. Thank God they loved the location and the house that they never saw, but because it had their kitchen and their colors in it. So they bought it.
Hallelujah.
So that was my story of selling the wrong house.
Oh my gosh. Well,
yeah, that was probably the worst.
That's a good story. Gosh.
Did you want to vomit when you started hearing that? It doesn't make your stomach start to go?
I almost started sweating for you.
Yeah, it was scary.
So you have a very successful podcast, which I had the honor of being on, the Brad Weisman Show, formerly known as Real Estate and You.
Yes. And that just changed.
Yeah. What led you to start your podcast? And when did you start your podcast?
It was April of 2020. Now, you probably know what was going on in April 2020. I think most people know what was going on in 2020.
Yeah.
And so it was, we were just in the thick of shutdown for COVID. And I was going absolutely nuts because I am not somebody that can just sit still and be told to stay at home. So I had to do something. So I went on and I started researching podcasts and stuff. And I always wanted to do my own podcast. I was on other podcasts and I had been around podcasts, but I never did my own. And I thought, you know what? While we have this shutdown going, I don't know how long this is going to last. Why don't I start sharing people's knowledge and people's experiences in real estate to help other people so that when this whole thing starts to unravel again or it comes back again, they have more knowledge about real estate. So I started doing it because of that. And I even interviewed some buyers and things that because I did it on my cell phone. I interviewed buyers that were in situations that were very interesting. This one girl was actually being abused by her boyfriend. It's not a good story. She had 2 children. She was being abused by her boyfriend. She calls me. I had sold her mom a house. And she said to me, she goes, I need to buy a house. I said, are you pre-approved? Absolutely. She goes, but I said, I can't show you a house. In Pennsylvania, we were shut down. We weren't allowed to show homes. So I said, here's what we can do. I said, we're going to get you a house. I'm going to figure it out. So I did. Now, it was an interesting situation where she walked past the house and the front door just happened to be open. And she walked in and showed it to herself. She then called me and said, I want to buy that house. And I said, okay, I'll write it up. And thank God for paperless transaction. We did it all. I never saw the house. I never saw her. And we actually settled into everything with all that. But I got her out of the situation she was in, which is the thing that I thought was the most important.
Absolutely. Thank God. Yeah. That's a great story.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? I read a little something that there might be some television in the future. Is that true? And can you give me some color on that?
Yeah. I mean, right now I am doing the show called the American Dream TV show, which is out of California. I'm doing that right now. I think I'm going to end up stopping that. And I'm going to start doing my own thing. I think Craig Sewing, who is the producer and owner of that show, is a great guy. And him and I had some conversations. I said, look, I love doing the show with your company. I said, but, this is your dream. I want to start following my own. So he's totally understood. He's like, yeah, it makes sense. So I'm going to start doing more TV stuff of our own production within the studio and also outside of the studio.
I love that. I love that you have the guts and, the ability to say, like, I love what you're doing, but I want to follow my own dream. So many people get stuck in the people pleasing mode, especially in our business. Right. Yeah. And I just think that that's a great representation of self-love and boundaries. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's funny because your ego kind of tells you not to do that, because my ego is saying, oh, keep doing that TV show. It's all over. It's, it's from out of California. I mean, it's local here. But I'm like, I did some soul searching and actually really thought about it. And they were very enticing to keep me there to do the show. And I said, at the end of the day, it's not about anything but that I have this that I want to do. I have this dream that I have. And if I'm not real to my own dream, how can I help your dream? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I love that. So what do you do in your free time?
Well, I have 2 awesome children. I have a lovely wife. So we like to travel. We like to go to the beach. We like to travel. We like to, the kids are busy. My daughter's a really good dancer. Carson's a really good golfer. So we're busy. Younger kids, I'll tell you what, I never knew it, but they keep you going.
Oh yeah, they do. I don't have any, but my friends tell me and my family tells me.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, so now it's time for my Fearless 5.
Okay.
You get 5 questions. You get 2 passes. You ready?
I'm a little scared.
I promise it's not scary.
Okay, good.
So the first question is a question that I ask everybody because I really enjoy listening to all of the different answers. It's a little bit of a deep question. Most people ask me to repeat it. So here we go. What is something you think most people value that you don't necessarily value or subscribe to, and why?
Sports. Now, don't get mad at me, anybody, but no. And Chad Henney's one of my good friends, and he was here and did a podcast with me in the studio. I like sports. I just don't follow them a lot just because I don't have time to get into it.
Yeah.
And also TV shows. I don't watch hardly any TV. A lot of people, I just don't. I don't have time. Now, every once in a while I'll do a show that, we still haven't gotten through Yellowstone, my wife and I. Believe it or not. We love the show, still haven't gotten through it yet. We're almost at the end. So just busyness. And I think, I don't know, I just don't see the time that I just don't have the time to do that stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
And great answer. And I hear you. I love TV. I fall asleep every single time, like 10 minutes in.
Yeah, right.
Anything. Yeah. Okay. Number 2, if you could travel back in time, what period would you go to and why?
Oh, totally would love to hang out with the Rat Pack.
Okay.
So Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, who else is back in there? Sammy Davis Jr. That era there with the cigarette in the hand and the whiskey in the other hand, and it just looked fun. It looked fun. Yeah, definitely. That would be my era. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, what's for dinner tonight?
Should I call my wife? I'm actually not sure. Actually, I don't know. Sometimes
What would you like to be for dinner tonight?
You want to know what my favorite food is for dinner?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so here's my favorite. If somebody said this is your last dinner and tomorrow you're gone, it would be a cheesesteak from Philadelphia, probably a Jim's cheesesteak from Philly. It would be fresh cut fries and a fountain Coke from McDonald's.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Did you ever notice that McDonald's has the best tasting Coke? I don't drink a lot of soda.
Do they?
But they have the best tasting Coke. They have their fountain Coke taste is 10 times. My friends and I, we talk about this all the time. It's the fat straw, I think, too. It's a fatter straw, has like a bigger opening. So I think it allows more oxygen or more carbonation to come in. I sound weird, right? I sound like I'm talking about like really good food, right? You know?
You sound like you know their secret.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
Okay. What's number one on your bucket list?
Number one on my bucket list right now. Well, one of them was crossed off. I went to Alaska this past year. With
awesome.
My family. My next one on my bucket list would be probably like Fiji or something like that, or somewhere like weird like that. That would be my bucket list. And I think my wife would be into that and the kids. So I'd say somewhere like that, like Fiji. Yeah, somewhere different. I like those little huts that are out in the water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those, have you done that yet?
I haven't, but you know what? That's on my bucket list too.
Yes. Yeah.
They
just look cool, right?
Who doesn't want to sleep over the water?
Oh my gosh, exactly. Yeah.
So cool.
You can't sleepwalk though in those places. You cannot sleepwalk. That becomes a problem.
Unless you're Christ.
This is true. And last time I checked, I wasn't, just so you know.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, number 5. Is there a question that you wish I had asked you today during this podcast? And if so, what would it be?
What's my favorite color?
What's your favorite color?
Red.
Why?
I don't know. It just is. It just is. It makes sense because KW and I wear red sneakers. I have a red 8-ball actually.
Wow.
Instead of the black one, a red one here. Everything I have is pretty much red.
Yeah, your branding is red. Yeah,
my branding is red. Everything's red. So I was just kidding when you said my favorite color, but that's kind of fun.
Well, I really appreciate your time. Were a fabulous guest. You're so engaging, and I can't wait to see what you do next. We'll put all of your contact details in the show notes so people can find you and follow your podcast and reach out to you if they need real estate. And I'm really glad to have and be building this relationship with you.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Let's stay in touch. And when we come to New York City, let's hang.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What part of the city are you in? Are you like what part of the city?
So where I live, I'm on the Upper East Side, 2 blocks from Central Park. Because I have fur children. So
you need the park.
We need the park in the mornings. So that's why I'm there. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Well, it was great talking. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's very kind.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching and listening to Kelly Minds Her Manners. Make sure to subscribe to the show and don't forget to leave us a review to tell us what you liked about the episode. You can connect with Kelly at Kelly Minds Her Manners on Instagram and TikTok or on our website, www.kellymindshermanners.com.